Hi everyone, welcome to another digital whiteboard session today with me. In this video, we want to cover key podcasts for entrepreneurs, whether you're rising or established as an entrepreneur. It levels up your business IQ. I have multiple categories of podcasts here today that I want to guide you through that I think are all extremely viable depending on where you are in your journey as an entrepreneur. Before we do that though, let's think a little bit about why podcasts are so valuable. Well, they're great in terms of consumption. You can listen to them wherever you are. You're on a run, you're in the gym, you're walking somewhere, you're in the car. Perfect. Much better than a piece of content that's in writing. Much better than YouTube, which stops the moment you leave the application unless you subscribe to the paid version of YouTube. So I love it. The second part is that deep subject matter experts usually create podcasts. So the people that you're listening to, if you pick the right podcasts, are serious people that know their stuff and are worth listening to, or are either, alternatively entertaining and have done a ton of research before creating the podcast. And then thirdly, because the podcast usually, or the format of a podcast usually gives these people enough time to dive into specific topics, you're also learning about things from very different angles, which shorter forms of content like a blog post just don't give you. You don't have enough time to cover all of the relevant points, and podcasts are great for that reason. Now, what I discovered in my journey as an entrepreneur, from a complete beginner to someone that's more established and recognized that he knows so much that he knows less the more he knows, is that I started to engage with different types of podcasts as I matured, and it essentially went from general, higher level, interesting stuff to more niche-specific knowledge that I was looking for, and podcasts are great for that. So, let's get started with getting started. If you are an entrepreneur in the early stages, I think there are primarily two podcasts that are great for you, and I'm speaking about English podcasts here. Every region, of course, has additional podcasts that are relevant for, let's say, German, French, Spanish, but in English, it's Startup, and it's How I Built This. That's Alex and Guy. Alex is the founder, and I think CEO, maybe no longer, of Gimlet. He essentially does almost like a reality show where he walks his listeners through what it was like to create Gimlet by literally recording his interactions with co-founders, employees, investors. It's extremely approachable and entertaining as a function of that. And Alex is previously a podcast host from NPR, one of the largest NPR platforms, I think. So he's really experienced at creating the format. And it shows. It's really entertaining. So highly recommend that. And the second one on How I Built This is essentially Guy interviewing founders of big brands and big companies that may not have as big brands, and listening and asking them questions about their founder journey. I found that Alex at some point becomes too high level, and quite frankly, there are also not that many seasons, so you kind of run out of content organically. And in the case of How I Built This, at some point the format, I just didn't find it engaging and deep and specific enough. At some point you just listen to enough interviews that you don't get that much value out of it, unless it's a brand that you deeply are connected to in some personal way. Now let's go from the rising entrepreneur podcast to the established entrepreneur podcast. What I noticed with myself, I think I said this earlier, I was looking for more expert and more specific knowledge focused on certain niches. And the first ones that I listen to at a very high frequency, actually almost daily, is the following four: The Game, B2B Revenue Vitals, Acquired, and Venture Unlocked. The Game by Alex, B2B Revenue Vitals by Chris, Acquired by Bell and David, and Venture by Samir. Now, these are all top entrepreneurs that have their own respective track records, but let's go through what specifically they discuss. In The Game, Alex from Acquisition.com, now Acquisition.com, is an entrepreneur that's kind of hard to ignore. He's on social media kind of anywhere at this point because he really locked in his content strategy. And if you're into entrepreneurship, you most likely have seen him already. The Game's podcast may not be as popular, but the earliest episodes go back to as far as him launching and building Gym Launch, where he helped other gyms acquire first memberships and get off the ground, through to what he's doing at Acquisition.com, where he's buying and investing in mostly IP-based products on product-based companies that have crossed somewhere from the 1 to 3 million revenue mark. And primarily, Alex focuses on 3 angles of business building, which are central to his entrepreneurship philosophy. It's how to build winning offers, how to commercialize these offers through sales and marketing, and thirdly, how to build winning teams around that. And Alex really says these are the 3 components that go into being a great entrepreneur, and he discusses all of that from different angles on his podcasts. Highly recommend. B2B Revenue Vitals is mostly relevant for B2B SaaS and especially for enterprise SaaS businesses, where the traditional go-to-market tactics have kind of lost their power. Everyone sends out cold emails, everyone runs paid ads, everyone does gated ebooks, everyone goes to trade shows. What's going to differentiate you? And Chris Walker, while probably not have invented content strategy, that probably goes back to HubSpot days. He is the one that framed the entire philosophy around this as demand creation and established his own business around that called Refine Labs. And so he has been driving that entire category of vocabulary forward since probably sometime around 2019 or maybe 20, and I've really enjoyed listening to him as he matures. By now he discusses like complex topics around attribution in B2B large-scale technology companies. Also very interesting. Thirdly, Acquired. Acquired is a slightly different format that could fit into the getting started bucket because it's very entertaining. Bell and David essentially dive deep into specific companies that are well-known technology businesses like Nvidia, Intel, Amazon, and the list goes on and on and on. Sometimes they speak to venture funds. I think they spoke to Sequire, they probably spoke to A16Z, and a couple of other folks. What they do, again, they do a ton of research going into their episodes. Every episode is long, and sometimes individual companies are not covered in just one 3-hour segment, but in multiple 3-hour episodes. So you really get the inside scoop on these businesses, and quite frankly, even for investing Intel, it's very good if you're a public market investor. Point number 4, Venture Unlocked from Samir. Of course, if you're a startup founder, especially at some point, you're very likely to be confronted with the reality of having to raise funds from professional investors. And Samir really unpacks what VCs are looking for. He is talking to and interviewing a lot of VCs. He himself, I think, is active in this space. And he also covers trends so that you can stay on top. Obviously, the entire venture space is very trend-driven. So if you are in a trending segment, it's easier to raise capital. And if you're in an untrending or in a negative trending segment or vertical, then it's kind of harder. And Samir gives you the insights in terms of what's going on right now. Now, in terms of diving deeper, there are 2 additional podcasts that I think bring you a ton of value. Just for me, the 4 former podcasts kind of consume all the available attention I already have, but these 2 additional ones also don't fit so well with my personal preferences, but may work well for you. So for instance, I'll just look at My First Million. It's Sam and Chan, usually for 30 to 45 minutes, kind of in an unstructured way, in somewhat of a loose way, discussing all kinds of topics, usually relating to business, but sometimes also about, Joe Rogan discussing the vaccine policies in the US. And that's probably also the reason why I don't engage so much with it, because some content is just too far removed from what I'm looking for, which is expert knowledge in order to help me build my business. And some of it is also a little unstructured, so they're just, riffing off their own thoughts in some sense. So that's that. And then there is a last category of podcasts that I think is very valuable too, but it's very specific. And for instance, E-commerce Master Plan, and the other one is Tech Salescraft. Depending on what you're struggling with right now in business or just sort of looking to learn about, I would get very specific with your keyword searches on whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts. And you'll find subject matter experts in pretty much any niche. In this case, it's e-com and it's sales within tech. These are 2 areas that I regularly interface with because I may build a new product or I may have a new customer that's in one of these spaces and I want to identify relevant talking points for them, or I'm selling to large enterprises and I'm struggling with it, and that's where Tech Salescraft could come in. So there are obviously many, many more podcasts like this, anywhere from machine learning to the history of the internet to consumer-related stuff. I think you can learn so much through podcasts, and I highly, highly, highly encourage the format in general. Now, these are my recommendations from my perspective that I really enjoyed. If you have additional ones, shoot them my way. I'm always looking to explore new podcasts. If they were great, I will listen and stay with them. Feel free to drop them in the comment section. Obviously, also feel free to drop questions into the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, leave a thumbs up. It means the world to me. And if you want more of this type of content, head to my channel and subscribe to it. All right, that's it for today. Have a great rest of your day. Talk soon. Bye-bye.